Okay, we'll attempt to do the character creation again. I need 4 characters. The first one is the telepath. The telepath will be essential in keeping contact or making contact with those that are telepathic, such as the turquoise, and in other parts of the campaign, other races that may depend upon or respect much more those that have telepathy. In this case, the characters are generally are going to be non-human, but this is the one exception that you can be. I actually made a human telepath, but remember, whenever you have psionics, you pay some way, shape, or form. This particular psionic human has a power of 15 in telepathy, which means he needs to account for 10 of it, because after 5 points in a human, the psionics becomes costly. In this case, this psionic is quadriplegic for no physical reason other than it's just quadriplegic. Basically, the brain can't handle that much telepathy without taking from somewhere. And remember that quadriplegic is a psionic, so they have cyber rejection. That's also universal in my campaign. Psionics and cybernetics don't mix. They just don't. Which is why a lot of psionic characters and races use organic technology. Okay. So the clever telepath would then switch bodies, but because of the fact it was just another human, they'd be quadriplegic again. And if they switch bodies with a race that can handle telepathy, then they gain the racial package that they have to pay whatever price that race is paying. In the turquoise case, they require heavy, if not man-made, elements for sustenance, at least partly. Kind of expensive and difficult, and that's what they pay. The next character that's important to this lineup is the computer. Now, the reason why I want the computer is because this character can bridge the gap of all the knowledges. A lot of times in a space campaign, you could come up against anything. And because of that, we need somebody that has a very broad knowledge, or some character and player preferably has a broad knowledge of whatever they need to learn. In this case specifically, this particular computer, they didn't catch it becoming sentient, and it was on its way to being used or maybe stolen from an asteroid mining field. Probably was mining asteroids on its own. So that's what it was originally, but it can learn anything, pilot anything once it learns. Being tech level 10 with genius option, it would have an IQ of about 14, dex of 12. It would be compact, but still highly, pretty heavy. We're talking about 400 to 800 pounds. Shielded, extra memory slots. It's got the works, which means very valuable. We're talking almost $100 million if I'm not mistaken, but I'd have to look through it again. In fact, almost $1 billion, I think. So the computer, however, does have a lot of versatility in that it can actually join the players as a drone, can explore places that maybe the others could not, help in astrogational contact, help in internet or virtual reality contact. Virtual reality at this tech level, 9 and 10, is just as real and can kill you just as quickly as normal reality. If your mind is in it, it's pretty much like Matrix. So that's kind of important. A good character in there would be helpful. The next character that will be important is the overall combatant. Now, I made the total cyborg. Called it the Goliath from StarCraft, or maybe we can call it Ed 209 from RoboCop. Either way, it's got a razor gun, a anti-tank rail gun, and 5 nukes, 5 mini nukes. Now, it also has fusion propulsion for a while. It can actually fly in normal Earth gravity for a while. And of course, you're going to thrust out in space. Very protected, very tough. Probably worth about 1,500 points or more in character points if one were to go through the robots book. But if that is not good enough and the players want something more personal, that's fine. Simply make sure that you understand that you are the stand-up combatant, okay? And that you are not human. And that you'll need to be able to operate in many types of environments. For example, Tippy's Cyber Ninja would be pretty good for that. Although, I have to admit, not as good as somebody carrying nukes, but that's all right. The last character that's very essential is the pilot. Now, I chose an uplifted dolphin because they are better pilots than humans for the most part. And the only way to get better than those guys is to add precognition in there. And we'll get to that later. But otherwise, those guys are about the best. And they also fit the parameter of non-human. Okay? But the pilot, I need desperately because, as was pointed out by a former friend of mine, it doesn't matter how awesome your character is. If they can't get off the ship that's getting blown up because the pilot couldn't get out of the way, you're still just as dead. There goes 500 points. Okay? So it's very important to note these are the 4 essential characters I need, okay, for their abilities and to keep the campaign going and so that I have a storyline. Got to have that, otherwise I got nothing. Now, one of the things, because of the first adventure, is that you guys will be abducted together and therefore form the bond of trying to survive and fight off any aggressors who are trying to take you back. Because all of you are going to generally be regarded as valuable property one way or another, okay, including the turquoise. Somebody wants to slice genetics of the psionics, of course. So that will be the important reason why you guys will stick together. Let's see. So that's it as far as the characters. There are specifics. All of you are welcome who can to ask me the questions about each of the character types. Again, you don't have to fill these roles if they're already filled by somebody, but I need to have something, whatever you're making, has got to have basically lack of human rights. And those include anything that cannot breed with a human and, of course, was not made in a factory. Because there are some biroids that can breed with a human, but they are not considered human because they were made in a factory, and they usually have stamps, tattoos, chips, whatever. So a partial cyborg is not considered a problem. They're still human as long as they can still hold a normal life. However, they may have a little bit of a social stigma. But if it's just for prosthetic help, that's not a problem. A total cyborg is somebody who made a choice, though. And that's where people look at you kind of off or badly, depending on where you're from and why you did it. Uplifted animals are perfectly good. Turquoise, of course, are considered alien because they had to cross themselves with the indigenous life on their planet to survive. Biroids. Robots are not necessarily appropriate because most of them are caught before they're become sentient. However, if you can justify a robot, remember this: it is illegal in most of the systems to actually make a robot that can replace a human, as in hands, head, legs. Not going to happen. So whatever robot you make, I will require that it not be human form. Okay? That's it for now. Hopefully this one works this time.